Hi, and welcome back to the Mandarin Blueprint Podcast, episode 123. I wasn't actually going to jump into any particular topic. I was just going to go straight to the emails and comments that we've had. But just before I started shooting, I was thinking, hey, it's the new year, right? And, our new year period is over. It's now officially 2021. And I think it's a good time to start making all kinds of goals. Relating to language specifically, I think it's a good idea to think to yourself, at least I will be, what do I want to achieve with my language this year, with Mandarin or any other languages you're studying? What do you want to get to? And you can break that down in terms of your annual goal. So by this time in 2022, what do you want to have achieved? And a big part of that is writing down your goals. Writing them down by hand is also really helpful. And writing down in a certain way that somehow gives them a higher likelihood of being achieved. So I remember watching something by Brian Tracy. He's one of those motivational speakers. And he's very effective, very successful. And one of the things that he suggested regarding goals, which I did, and it helped me personally pass the HSK6 in a short time, I think, was write down your goals every single day. So it's quite a lot to expect. And I guess handwriting, he suggests, is better. But, you pick 10 goals for the year. You can have more long-term goals if you want, but 10 goals for the year is a good sort of number. And you write them down on a daily basis and say, you write it in the way of by so-and-so date, I have passed the HSK5. Or I passed the HSK5 by so-and-so date. It's written in a way that's like, it's kind of already happened. It's just, you're just waiting for the time to come. So that was very good. But, that's taking it a bit to the extreme. And it's rather time consuming to do that. But just having your goal somewhere and making short-term, medium-term, long-term goals. So daily, weekly or monthly and annual. And it should be specific as well. I'm sure you guys know a lot about SMART goals. Instead of me going through all that, go ahead and download our ebook, Mastering Mandarin in the Modern World. So if you go to the resources section of our website, mandarinblueprint.com, you'll see it there. It's very large, 193 pages, and one of the chapters is about writing goals. So go and check that out. Maybe make some goals for this year, and start being more mindful of them on a daily basis. And that's what I'm going to start doing this year again anyway. So we'll start today with Santino Banks. He sent a comment on the community. He says, "Hey everyone. I'm halfway through level 14 and I'm picking up the sentence reading quite well, but I'm just wondering, how long should I be staying on each sentence to perfect it orally? I'm not too sure if this is just an exercise to get used to reading and understanding Chinese, or I'm supposed to be working on my spoken Chinese too. I'm spending quite a bit of time on them, and I'm worried that this might not be the time for it yet, and I could just be slowing down my course progress." So, yeah, this is something that comes up relatively often, on a regular basis. Hey, how am I supposed to be reviewing these sentence cards? Am I doing it right? Which kind of makes me think maybe we should make a video that very clearly describes what I'm about to say. We'll probably add it to the course. So level 14, you're on. Yeah. So when you see a new sentence here, you should be just reading the sentence, trying to guess the missing close delete, and checking you understand what's going on in the sentence. You understand the message of it. And that's it. That's the minimum activity, the minimum viable activity that you need to do. And you can move on after that. Now, if you want, it will help you greatly if you shadow the material as well. So as you hear the audio, you repeat it. Maybe you can press repeat. I believe that's R on the keyboard, or just manually do it. Just keep repeating it. And that will improve your pronunciation, your speaking, and it will do nothing but good. But you don't always have energy for that. So that's what you always say. It's like, what mood are you in? How much time do you have? How much energy you have? Weigh those things up before doing that. Maybe just try it out for like 5 sentences and then stop doing it, or vice versa. So yeah, it's never not time for it. It's never not time, but we have different preferences. So some of our students like to, or members, I think it's a better word, some of them like to really take their time and review every single sentence. Not only that, but review every single sentence as you're describing by reading it out loud, making sure it's correct, stuff like that. A lot of students like to just review the required sentences, go through sort of not so detailed, and then maybe they'll head back and unlock the not required sentences later on and do it that way. So it's completely up to you, Santino. Either way, it's all good, you know. This is I would say, if it was me personally, I would vary it from day to day, depending on how I felt and how much time I had. Vila, Ruawai, on Unit 3 wrap-up. This is from the Pronunciation Mastery course. Oh yes, thanks guys. By the way, I'm really enjoying the course so far. Anki is a little challenging, but the more I use it, the more I'm beginning to like it. Yeah, Anki can be a little bit challenging, but it's a lifelong software that you might want to keep with you for not just learning Mandarin or even languages, but all sorts of different things. Yeah, so I'm glad you're getting through that. There's a bit of a learning curve to it, but if you follow the instructions carefully, it's not too bad. Soren, Vocab Unlocked from Pai, it's quite far into the course now. I'm still a little bit haunted by the lack of translations for a lot of sentences. Yeah, no worries, that's fine. We're thinking about just adding them in anyway, regardless of level. It's just that, first of all, this is the intermediate course, and we didn't want to. We added translations for most things, I believe, but it's a lot harder than it sounds. Like, translating, as I've mentioned before, is not an easy task, and it can be difficult to find the right resources, as in the person resources to do that. If we do it, we can do it ourselves, of course, but it's just so time consuming. We tried hiring someone else, and it's like we just end up having to go through every sentence anyway and make sure it's done correctly, because the Chinese might not be as good as ours or whatever. So it's just so time consuming. That's the issue, and we've got so much to do. So we thought, okay, people are getting to the level where they can understand the sentence anyway, so let's not translate every single sentence for them. And I think a lot of people like that, actually, because it gives them kind of a reward, because it's a bit more challenging, of course. You've got no training wheels. But it forces you to really think about the sentence and look at it and what does it mean based on the knowledge you've already built so far. But yeah, now I'm thinking just go back and maybe just do it, just bite the bullet and get every sentence translated. But we'll see. Anyway, so Soren says, 排除不来的人还有多少人? And he Google translated it. Oh, big mistake. Google Translate, especially with anything like relatively long sentences, it's not very reliable. Google Translate gave the translation, how many people can't be excluded, and that's just completely wrong. He says, my expected meaning of this would be something more along the lines of, excluding the people that didn't come, how many are we? Well, 还有 would be, yeah, so yeah, no, that'd be right. Yeah, so how many? That's pretty much spot on. Although, 不来 is either present or future. It's not past. So that'd be how many people will come. Excluding the people that won't come or won't be coming, how many is that overall? So, but yeah, yours is way better than Google Translate. He says, I guess you can kind of interpret the Google translation in that way too. At least there isn't a direct contradiction. When I encounter these types of sentences, I tend to focus solely on the meaning of the word or character the sentence is structured around learning, whilst ignoring the sentence as a whole. This is obviously a small minority, as most of the sentences are quite straightforward, which is amazing to experience. Yeah, so I'm glad that most of the sentences are working out for you. Some of them are, of course, more challenging than others, but you've done a great job. I think you should have more confidence in yourself, Soren, because don't underestimate the skill that you have. Because you've demonstrated that you understand that. It's not like I wouldn't classify that as an easy sentence. It's open to certain interpretations if you're if you lack experience, which you obviously don't now. So well done. And always get in touch if any do, as people do anyway. People always leave a comment if there's any issues, and it's great because that adds to the course. So please do that. Fantastic. Next is Alex Sumray on Vocab Unlocked for Shen. He says, does anyone know the story behind Shen Ma? I imagine it's a jokey thing used on WeChat between the younger generations. Or is there a deeper meaning? So I actually had to look this up. I've never heard of Shen Ma used like the original version. Of course, it's used in sort of online slang, meaning Shenma, like what. But why do they say Shen Ma? Well, look on Baidu. Baidu has all the answers as long as you can read Chinese. There's a bunch of reasons. Shen Ma is a bunch of sort of uses of that particular term. It's used to describe a kind of flying horse. One of the most common sort of known to people would be, it's also used to describe just an incredibly amazing horse, like a stallion, a beautiful stallion. So that's a Shen Ma, according to Baidu. But one that stood out to me, there's like 6 different references, including the Shen Ma one, the what one. One that stood out the most, I think would be most commonly known to Chinese people, is it's known as the horse that the kitchen god, the Zhao Shen, would ride. The kitchen god is apparently, I've never seen this personally or heard about this in real life, but apparently Chinese people, or maybe not so much now, but maybe more back in the more old and back in history, they would have a Zhao Shen, a sort of statue of the kitchen god in their kitchen, either on the north or the east of the stove itself. And it's to do with preventing disasters, I believe. Maybe to do with the actual fire in the kitchen, but generally it's about good fortune. So I might be off on that. That's me translating over like 10 seconds of a Baidu thing. But that's generally what the Zhao Shen is, and he apparently rides the Shen Ma as well. So there's loads of references to it. But yeah, basically it's just now people know it as just a Shen Ma, like what, just in a funny sort of satirical online chatty way. John Nomura just says on he in context. So in context is our new type of lesson where we just show the word that you've learned in context with example sentences that you can understand. He says, I can see why you say reading these can become addictive. Yeah, so reading the sentences does get very addictive once you actually are able to do it, once you reach level 13. I believe John is around there, he's a bit further on now. But yeah, he's starting to really get into that, because once you, like Soren said as well, it's an amazing experience once you can start reading Chinese sentences, and doing so after only learning like 100 characters, 150 characters. It's pretty cool. And yes, it is addictive. Even now, for me, it's still addictive. Kevin Roy Jackson make a movie for xiang, which means fragrant. He says, nice t-shirt, Phil. Do you have any plans for merch? And funny enough, we got approached by one of our members relatively recently, who also was like, hey, you guys should do something, either sell t-shirts or maybe give away t-shirts once you reach a certain level. And I thought that was a fantastic idea. And we'd actually thought about it before, but he brought it, and we hadn't, I just put it as an idea in the back of my mind for a long time. And then he said it, and I think now we've probably got the resources to do that. So I think that's a great idea. Maybe, I don't know if we'd have like a shop. I have no idea how to execute this whatsoever. We could just I just get these off Taobao, to be honest. Taobao, I just send them a logo and they'll send you a shirt, with the company color and stuff. But I guess we'd have to do that in a different way. But that's cool. People want to buy the shirts and stuff. But I think the coolest thing is if someone gets to a level where we can prove that they've got to level, say they finished the foundation course or they finished the intermediate course, we should send them a free shirt, I think. I have to get those designed, which is my area. So I'm going to go on a short break, like a holiday, in a few days' time. But once I get back, I think I'll get into that and apply for hire a designer to help us out with that. If you guys got any ideas regarding this, by the way, please let us know in the community or comment, email us. I've got some ideas. I've got some websites that do drop shipping and stuff, but it's definitely something that we thought would be cool to do. So yes, Kevin, it's definitely on our list along with many other things. But I'm quite excited about that one. I think that'd be quite cool. Jeff Johnson on pa in context. Again, seeing the word pa, afraid, or to fear rather, in context of sentences. And he says, he gives 2 example sentences that are both from the course itself. And he says, 我的马很吓人. 吓人 is a word meaning scary. So my horse is scary. And then the second one is 我的儿子很怕我. My son is scared of me. He says, when I come to these sentences, I always get mixed up between 吓 and 怕. And I just, I looked at this and I thought that's completely understandable because they're very similar, right? 吓 is like active. It's like to scare someone. It's a verb. And 怕 is an adjective saying scared. I am scared of this, that, So I thought of a really quick, or just looking at the characters, I thought just a quick sort of mnemonic thing you could do is the word 吓 is active, right? It means like jumping out and scaring someone. I'm going to scare him, or he scared me. And it has a mouth in it on the left, so that sort of just works for me mentally as a mnemonic. It's like, it's got a mouth, so that's the active one. That's the verb. The mouth's actually scaring someone. Like imagine someone jumping out of a corner and scaring you, and then the pa then automatically is not the active one. It's the descriptor. It's the adjective. So that works for me. Anyone else got any better ideas? Again, community, let us know. We've got another comment from Scott on our problem initial lesson from the Pronunciation Mastery course. He says, almost 20 years ago, my wife and I taught English and computer classes at a private university at Yanjiao in a suburb of Beijing. Beijing, sorry, like half there. Half English, half Chinese pronunciation. Beijing. We were there for about a year and learned enough Chinese to shop, order food at a restaurant, and talk to taxi drivers. Well, at least a little bit. They seemed to appreciate that we were trying to speak Chinese. They certainly do, even if they only understood a few words that we said. Anyway, a Chinese friend told us that rice is more common in southern China. Yes, it is. But noodles and bread are more common in the north. If I remember correctly, we mostly ate noodles but seldom ate rice. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And the reason is you learn a lot about rice when you're married to a Chinese woman. So, especially a northern Chinese woman. The north is colder. And so they can only have one harvest for rice a year. So it's just, over many years, because China's only very recently become, I wouldn't say wealthy, because on average people still aren't wealthy here. It's still a rather poor country, but generally the middle class is growing exponentially, right? And they can afford all sorts of things. But of course, before like the 1970s, that wasn't the case, right? So you went by what the harvest gave you. And in Beijing, of course, they've, over many, many, many years, they've developed the habit of not eating rice as much. And I assume, it's just my assumption, that it's because rice is only harvested once a year, whereas in the south, 4 times a year at least, I believe. A lot more anyway. So it's just abundant because the southern weather is just so much more humid and hot. So I guess the Beijing people, similar to Northern Europeans, right? Because cold weather, they got used to eating bread and wheat-based things, which I assume grows faster. Lots of assumptions in this explanation, by the way, so you might want to look up what I'm saying. But yeah, definitely. But also, I will say, Beijing, like the Beifang, the northern rice is so much better in my opinion. It just tastes way better. Yes, rice is different, right? So if it's southern rice and northern rice, there is difference. And Beijing rice, I guess because it only gets harvested once a year, it just has a sort of toughness to it, which is very satisfying. It fills you up a little bit more and it just tastes better in my opinion. My little rice rant there. So they called the bread 面包 and noodles 面条. but pronounced it 面条, 面条. Yeah, that's absolutely right. That strong R sound at the end of words was so common around Beijing. I know, right? The more time you spend there as well, like you add an R sound to that too? Like, why? It takes the same amount of time to say. It's just what they do. Someone told us that it was the local dialect called Beijinghua. Yeah, Beijinghua. Yeah, sure. I've forgotten most of the Chinese I learned back then, so I'm looking forward to relearning what I lost and learning even more. Loving the lessons so far. 谢谢. Awesome. Thank you for the comment. Yes, and yeah, there's a lot of R going on there, but it's easy to understand, and it's quite fun as well. I kind of like it. It's very easy to imitate as well. It's not like a difficult pronunciation. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how you're going to progress there, Scott. Yeah, let us know any updates you have, any other thoughts about the course. Please get in touch. The next one here is Jonathan Glazier on Vocab Unlocked for 现在发现 and 现今. So all to do with 现, meaning now, currently. And this is what I really want to see from you guys more and more, please, because they're fantastic. It's a new aspect to the course that we've started to encourage, and I did mention a couple of weeks ago that I shot a video. It's about an hour long. I think we cut it down now. It's all about how to create vocab mnemonics. We've got a vocab mnemonics cheat sheet all prepared. That's going up on the course very soon, within the next week or so. At the beginning of phase 2, and throughout, what we'll do actually is we'll cut it up into clips, maybe 10 clips, because all our videos are short. I don't want to have like one hour video just stuck in there. I want to do that to you. So we're going to cut it up into maybe 6 to 10 sort of clips and sprinkle them from the first 2 or 3 levels of phase 2. Yeah, and just to give you all the tips we know, pretty much all, in terms of how to create vocabulary mnemonics. And Jonathan Glazier, and this is what we want you to start doing, as well as giving us fantastic films, movie scenes, whatever you want to call them, for learning characters. I also want to hear your ideas for learning vocabulary, your mnemonics for learning vocabulary. For example, 发现. So 发现 means to discover. And we show you that word, you unlock that once you've learned both of the characters, 发 and 现, which mean send and currently, respectively. So 发 means send or send out, and 现 means currently, now. So he just says, seek and ye shall find. Send currently. Yeah, so that's like the connection that Jonathan's making there between the two characters and the final meaning of the word. That involves a little bit of thought, but it does make sense to me. And it's a good one. So well done there, Jonathan. Please, guys, send more of those, more connections, more mnemonic ideas for connecting characters to the 2 characters, or 3 or 4 characters, usually to just 2, to the final meaning of the word. That'd be great. Speaking of which, I've got another one here from Jason Pon, another couple actually. This is for 进步 and 进一步. So there's slightly different meanings. 进步is progress, and 进一步. I'm doing it again. What am I doing with my English? Just like saying Chinese with an English accent. 进一步. 进一步. 进一步is like advance further, like one step further, or yeah, that would be the best translation, I think. I don't know what the exact translation we gave, but that works. So let's look at 进步 first. So he says, I thought of notable historical figures who have contributed to the progression of our society. 进步 means to progress, right? More specifically on a technological idea to be also in line with the idea of advancing and improving. So I chose a picture of Henry Ford standing in front of a Ford Model T. So yeah, that works as well. You think of an image that represents that word as a whole. So 进步, what's a great image that you could associate with that? I always like to try, and this is what I said in the video clips that you'll see soon, I also like to try to connect to the words, the characters, individually, as well, and ideally connect those. But it doesn't have to be done, because it can sometimes it just like with making a certain movie scene to learn a character, sometimes the inspiration just doesn't come, right? But if I was just looking at it right now, just off the top of my head, so Jim, Bu, it's kind of a mnemonic in itself, isn't it? So I can see why Jason didn't add any ideas there, because Jin means to enter, or to enter a step. And Bu is step, right? So enter a step. Enter is like going into something, and then one step into something. So you could connect that to the second idea that Jason has actually here. They would both work in a similar way. So the next word is 进一步. So it's exactly the same. It's just got the character 一, number one, added in the middle. It just means one further step. Further. So you could say, for example, 进一步了解. So 了解 is to understand. So you could say 进一步了解, when it means to understand further something. So he says, I thought Neil Armstrong. So just get a picture of Neil Armstrong. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. So that kind of works as a idea, because 进一步 is literally a step, isn't it? You're entering the moon, one step. And that is also 进步. It's also big progress for mankind, right? In theory. So, fantastic. So that's the idea. Well done. Keep those coming. I really like to see those new vocabulary unlocked, because they're so helpful. You can just learn words in seconds using these. It's fantastic. Last comment that's not a movie here is from Rick Angleland on Make a Movie for Mo. I've seen Mo mean so and so. Mo一个, so it means some and such, absolutely, such and such, for sure. I.e., fill in whatever you want. I've also heard 什么什么. What would be the commonest fill the gap expression? Good question. Yeah, I thought about this for a little bit, Rick, and I can't really think of many more. I mean, there's 等等, which is kind of like etc. So 等 as in to wait. I'm not sure why, but 等等 is like the slightly more formal way of saying etc. 什么什么 is more like literally the three dots that you get when you're doing someone's speech. So saying literally, it's very useful, for example, teaching Chinese. So you can have you say like a grammatical word, and then it's three dots, and the other grammatical word. So 一什么什么就, 一什么什么就. So that's like a grammatical function. So 一 means as soon as, and then 就 means that happened. So you say, 一什么什么就什么什么. So that 什么什么 is literally the dot 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 there. So it's used in that context. Momo is used, in a slightly different context, such and such. So it's hard to say what's the most common, because they're used in different ways. And 等等 means etc. So those are the three most common that I've heard, but they have different functions. There are others as well, but I can't really think of any of them that are as useful or as common on that same level as those three that I mentioned. The next one is, we've got movies next, sorry. So movies, we've got three this week. We've got a couple from Will, and just an interesting comment from Alex Sumray. So we'll start with Alex. He says, this just made me laugh. So having misunderstood the keyword, I asked my mum what association she has with barley, as in the grain. She responds Indonesia, thinking I said barley, B-A-L-I. I've now just made a scene for barley barley the grain instead of barely the adverb. I think it's time for us to stop for the day. Yes, when you start hallucinating and getting things wrong. It's time to have a little break, maybe go have a coffee, something to eat, and then get back to Mandarin Blueprint. I just thought it was really funny. Well done, Alex. It makes me laugh. A couple of movies here from Will. Will's been a champion, by the way. Thank you, Will, for adding so many comments to the course lately, and in such an organized way. I love it. As you can see here from the text, got the keywords. So this is a tough one. This is why I want to definitely go through this one to see how Will goes through it, because this one's for aid, as in help, and it's 记. It's not a standalone character. It's It's most commonly used in the word 经济, which means economy or economics. So the actor, GI actor, null set, fourth tone, so it's in the bathroom. The props are a water bottle. This is cool actually. I like when people show the props beforehand, so you don't have to go back and figure out. So the props are a water bottle and a man on stilts. Make a movie. In the bathroom, the JO actor's there. She spills her water bottle on the floor. She does not want to get her feet wet, so she backs against the wall. Yet she is now surrounded by the water and needs aid. A man on stilts comes to her aid. So I guess he picks her up and takes her across the water bottle's water to the bathroom's exit. That could be a very dramatic scene. I can imagine holding his hand out like this, saying, "Come with me if you want to live," and taking it. The actress looks so relieved. The man on stilts comes to her aid. That's good to mention as well, like to show it's her cue to feel like, yeah, he's here. Everything's good now. It's nice to give your scenes a sense of completion. So that's great. When I personally think of aid, I always think of like sending aid to poor countries. So I would imagine that scene is great, by the way. This is not a criticism at all. I'm just saying, like, I would think of a helicopter dropping something in. So maybe this guy on stilts comes down. He's on a little mini helicopter and he comes down. That's just me personally. But well done, Will. Really like that one. The next one here, again, Will, is another D character. This one means a chemical agent. You'll see this on the back of chemicals, or any sort of chemical that you buy for household use. You'll often see it, like a cleaning chemical, things like that. Says, and he specifically mentions as well, it's a solo chemical, not like a mixture. So let's see what he does here. Again, it's the same actress, same room, it's exactly the same pronunciation. Right? So bathroom again, man on stilts as well. But this time, there's no water involved. It's a broadsword. The right side component is a sword. The JI actress in the null bathroom, the man on stilts comes to attack her this time. She gets her broadsword and slices the man on stilts. A strange chemical agent bleeds out of the man on stilts. I guess you could make it like bright green or something like this. This chemical agent is like acid that melts through the bathroom floor, like in the Alien movies. I think that would work very well too, because although it's a very general, it's not like it's a chemical agent by the way it's reacting with the floor. And I guess you could have a nice sound effect with that, like a sizzling as it burns through the floor. She's absolutely terrified as well. Maybe he's in pain, or maybe not. But it's a very memorable scene. It's very simple, and I think that does the job very well. So awesome. Well done, Will. Well done, everyone, as usual. Thank you for your comments this week and your emails. Please keep more coming. Keep sending in your movie scenes for the intermediate course. If you're not in the intermediate course yet, power through. Get there as soon as you can, because it just gets better and better as you start unlocking more of this beautiful language. And if you haven't actually started the course, but you've listened to me this far, including talking about people bleeding chemicals on the floor, and you haven't signed up for our course, give it a shot. If you go to our website, mandarinblueprint.com, we have a 14-day free trial, which gives you completely unfettered access to phase 1 and pronunciation mastery. And to be honest, it's enough time to get through both of them. So it's basically giving you 2 free courses. And yeah, check it out. I will see you guys in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.